pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I want to first thank my board members for allowing us to change our normal schedule. I have a business conflict, so that is why we're meeting at this hour of the morning instead of traditional evening meetings. We have a full agenda today. I was going to say tonight, this morning. The board will, first of all, we will have a presentation by Chief Bradley as to some of the activities and the changes taking place within the fire department and its staff. We will be discussing the annual town meeting motion warrants. We will be discussing recruitment process for the new fire chief. We will review and approve MOA with the police union. We have donations to accept on behalf of the town for the fire and police department. We will review the trust fund investment report. We will consider funding requests for the senior center, the town hall, and the recreation master plan. We will review the auction results of the public auction of town equipment. We'll also consider appointments to various boards for the Economic Development Committee and the Council on Aging. We'll review a one-day liquor license application. There will be a review of a common vic license for Kelly's Farm. We will discuss authorizing the town manager to execute various agreements relative to CMRPC Economic Development Plan, to the real estate appraisal and review appraisal services, to the TIP appraisal services, the successful bidder for the part of the TIP project, the Hartford Ave North Main Street water replacement and the bidder for that process, the water main replacement for residential engineering, again up at the water TIP agreement. We will look at the log DEP requirement for CDM engineering. And then we will select the annual scholarship recipients, and we will do that by number. We do not mention names because the school asked that the awards be given on their class day, so they don't want us to divulge the recipients at this time. And we will execute an election warrant for May 15. The board will, at the conclusion of this meeting, go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21, Exception Number 2, to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. At that point, we will adjourn the meeting. We will not reconvene for the open meeting purposes. We will also discuss any new business that may come before the board. So, before we start, we have a guest today. Mr. Russ Wood would like to address the board. I believe it's relative to Memorial Day. Russ, please.
Yes, sir. I'm here to officially invite you to participate in the Memorial Day exercises.
Okay.
As you do every year. I usually send a letter every year. I thought it'd be more personal if I came and look you in the face and you could look me in the face.
Yeah.
You're invited to attend the Memorial Day services.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll read this. It says, on behalf of the Upton Veteran Council, you are cordially invited to participate in Memorial Day services on Monday, May 28th, beginning at 8 a.m. Northgate Lakeview Cemetery, North Main Street. Furthermore, you are invited to participate in the Memorial Day Parade beginning at Memorial School at 10:15 a.m. Furthermore, you are invited to bring the greetings of the town of Upton at the assembled Memorial Day ceremony to be held on Town Common at 10:15. These services to honor all Upton veterans who have so unselfishly served our country in time of war, in particular those who have made the ultimate sacrifice to preserve the peace and freedom so we all enjoy here in Upton. Sincerely, Russ Wood, Veterans Council member. Definitely will be there. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, gentlemen, we have regular session meeting minutes from March 6th, March 20th, March 28th, and executive session of April 3rd and regular April 3rd, executive March 20th, and executive April 3rd. Are we prepared to make motion?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the regular session meeting minutes from March 6th, March 20th, March 28th, April 3rd, and the executive session from March 20th and April 3rd as written.
Second the motion.
That's unanimous action of the board. Thank you. Next, we have a guest, Chief Bradley, and Deputy is here as well. Would you both please come forward? The Chief is going to address the board. As you know, the Chief has stepped in as a temporary administrator of the department and wants to brief the board on some of the transitions. Chief,
Good morning.
I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you for having me. Town manager asked me to come today to talk about the transition period a little bit, and I'm just going to outline a meeting that we had on Monday, April 23rd a department meeting, just to keep everybody updated on where we are and where we're going on the short term. A couple things we discussed was the department's missions, mission value statements, and so forth. The agenda for the meeting, we talked about department transition, which talks about the recruitment process for the fire chief, the deadline for applications, and that the town will use a recruiting service, and will also have some type of screening committee, and I believe that the board's going to talk about that further. So the estimated timeline, which I gave to the department, was probably about 4 to 6 months to get through that period of recruitment until we have a permanent fire chief in place. So from now until then, the chain of command for the fire department is, I've been named the acting public safety director in charge of administration issues for the fire department, and Chief Marchand is acting fire chief in charge of operations. So we're going to work closely together to make sure things run smoothly between now and when we have a permanent fire chief. We also talked about chain of command as far as captains, lieutenants, and their responsibilities moving forward. From there, we shifted into some of the needs that we see short term, is working on a written directive system that encompasses policy and procedures, rules and regulations, general orders, training bulletins, and how to move that forward. So we're asking our officers in the department to gather some of those policies from other departments and other sources, and to look at those policies and come up with a written directive system, and also utilize the advisory committee to vet some of those policies and get those in place. Personnel issues we discussed was obviously the fire chief recruitment and an open firefighter paramedic position, and also we had a brief conversation on retention of staff, call staff, and full-time staff. But that's something I think the advisory committee's been working on for some time. Scheduling, we discussed some of the short-term and long-term goals in scheduling, specifically to fill the May schedule, then moving throughout the summer, and how we're going to fill some of those call shifts and career staff shifts. Another item we discussed was succession planning. We have a retirement coming up, one of the career firefighters, and taking some of his roles and assigning those roles, and some training for other members of the department. So that's particularly in the area of inspections, plan reviews, those type of activities. Equipment needs, we talked about different equipment needs that the department has. We recently had engine 1 repaired that has been back in service for a couple of weeks. We have a new tanker that that's been put online that was voted for, I believe, in the November special town meeting. Some SCBA repairs that were sent out, and other grants and donation purchases that we'll be looking at in the coming months. The last topic that we discussed was talking about performance evaluations and goal setting. So we've asked that our lieutenants meet with all the members of their company and set some mutually agreed upon goals for the coming year. And I believe last night at the officers meeting, Chief Marchand had the personnel board come in and talk about performance evaluations and goal setting and how to go through that process. So I think that was great for the department to see that and to hear what the personnel board had to say. So that's a quick rundown of where we are, where we're headed over the next 6 months, and I'll ask Chief Marchand to elaborate on that if you'd like to.
Things are working out well. We're addressing the issues we needed to. We're also handling the calls. Participation level seems to be, the amount of personnel responding to calls are back up. It seems to be doing very well. We met with Sandy and Nate last night with personnel issues. It's the first time that that the lieutenants and through the chain of command are going to be participating in evaluations. Most of our call people never had anything like that, so we've modified it. We're working with them very closely to get what we've done. It's going to be more of a goal-based evaluation than the standard evaluation. So we're looking forward to start that process. And we're also trying to influence the chain of command, lieutenants, captains, chief on up, which seems to be doing well. It's starting off well, and some discipline, which Chief Bradley brings in. I just would like to say that Chief Bradley's been a tremendous asset to us, and our members welcome him with great gratitude for helping us in this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gary, anything comments you want to make?
No, I'd just like to thank you both for stepping up and giving the new chief a good platform to start with, good foundations.
Yep, that is our goal. Hopefully, we can leave some policy and procedures and make his transition a little bit easier when his or hers, when the time comes.
Just like to say, people are, of course, our most important asset as our employees, call staff, full-time. I think that speaks to your strengths, so thank you for stepping up. Both of you are doing great service for the community.
And I would like to thank you from a personal note. You know where I'm going with this, so thank you for all you've done all the years. I think the people in this town should, if they don't recognize it, really need to appreciate the fact that public safety's always been paramount in this town. And I don't think in my entire tenure we've ever had an instance where public safety officials have erred in any capacity. So people should be comfortable with that fact and know that there are people on both police, fire, and EMS out there for their safety and protection of them and their families. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
support.
Yep.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the meeting. Derek?
I'm going to pass, given all the
Defer.
other items we have.
Okay. Gentlemen, we have the motions for the annual town meeting. We have copies of the motion cards. If you gentlemen are in agreement, basically what I did, I went through them and tried to balance them as is traditional, and it comes out that Gary reads 6, Gary reads 7, Steve reads 6, and I read 5 of the articles. The others will be deferred to other departments that are on the warrant. So for Article 2, I'd like to take that one for myself. Okay. Article 3, Gary. Article 4, Gary. And traditionally, Dennis, where you're not a resident of Upton, that's why Gary's reading this. Article 5 would be Steve. Article 6 would be me. Article 7 would be Steve. And please speak up if you have any comments relative to this. Article 8, Gary. Article 9, Gary. Article 10, Steve. Article 11, me. Article 12, all 12, A, B, C, and D would be the Community Preservation Fund, which I believe might be Rena Richards. Article 11 would be the Board of Assessors, whoever they determine they'd like to have read that. 13, I mean, I'm sorry, excuse me. Article 14, Conservation Commission. Article 15, a member of the school committee. Article 16 would be Steve. Article 17 would be Steve. Article 18 would be the Board of Assessors again. Article 19 I will read. Article 20 would be the assessors, allow them to determine that. Article 21, even though it's a Passover, Gary. Article 22, well, that one's either Personnel Board. Yep, right? Article 23 would be Personnel Board. Article 24, Gary. Article 25, I will read. Article 26, Personnel Board. Article 27 would be Steve. And Article 28, Gary. And these are not cast in stone. If you gentlemen have any comments you'd like to defer or change, we can do that as well. Okay? Steve?
No, I don't have any problems with that.
Okay. Okay, next, the proposed process, discussed process for the fire chief. The town manager submitted a proposal as well as the protocol submitted to us by council for Copeland and Page. This is somewhat a similar process as we did for the town manager search, which worked out well, didn't it, Derek? Right. Some, yes. But the proposed process will be to search firm will conduct the key informant interviews to ascertain the need of fire department community prior to the search process beginning. Then the Board of Selectmen would appoint a screening committee of various members consisting of one member from Fire EMS Advisory, one Finance Committee member, a member from the community at large, one member of the Board of Selectmen, the administrator, Sandy, and one Personnel Board member. That screening committee and the search firm review the applicant resumes and recommend candidates to the next round. The recommended candidates submit essay responses to questions prepared by the search firm, and responses are reviewed by the screening committee and the search firm. Top candidates recommended to move on to the next round. The search firm only conducts the oral interviews and narrows the field to move on to assessment center. The search firm only conducts the assessment center and recommends 2 to 3 finalists. The finalists are interviewed by the town manager, a Board of Selectmen member, one member from the screening committee, and which is not a town employee, and the search firm as a technical advisor. The top candidate is recommended for employment. This process will allow for public input in the beginning and the end of the process, while the search firm manages the middle of the process. Gentlemen, I open this up for debate or comment. Is there any comment relative to this process? Gary?
No, it looks pretty squared away.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the 2 to 3 finalists, I think that's a good, it's a good model. It's worked well for us.
Okay. Derek, any comment?
My only comment is going back up to bullet point number 2, relative to the screening committee. For your consideration, 6 potential candidates, we may want to move that to an odd number, so 5 or 7. So maybe we want to add an additional person on that screening committee, or maybe want to take a candidate off that, so we have an odd number in case we get to a situation where they have to make a formal vote on potential candidates moving on to the next round. So that's the only item that I would pose for consideration, moving it to an odd number.
Gentlemen, I'll defer to you.
I wouldn't be opposed. I just don't know where we would draw a 7th member. I can't see
We could do 2
eliminating anybody
We
there.
could do 2 community members or civilians. Or is there another department that they work, like,
We couldn't do 2 BOS members, right, because we would be, at that point, a quorum. Right.
Or potentially, do you want to save the Board of Selectmen member for the final interview round like you did for the town manager search? That's something else you could consider.
You have a Board of Selectmen member in that initial search. I'm confused what you...
no,
Under
remove
number
this.
7?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we weren't involved in the town managers until like the very end.
until the very end for objectivity. Same way, my opinion is you wouldn't want any town employees or any departments to interact with this individual because, you know, you want total objectivity. I would think, just as a comment, another community member gives you 7, and you're drawing from the community. There's enough expertise out there that you could get somebody to volunteer.
I'm either good with that or doing away with the board member. So,
Getting rid of which member?
the BOS member in the very beginning until.
Well, I would think, you know, what we could do is keep that BOS member there, but use a different BOS member on number 7, and add, as the chairman had suggested, just add another community member. So with 7, because we do have problems sometimes, you know, there's always issues trying to get a quorum together, so maybe having 7, in theory, may be easier.
So if I read right, you gentlemen would like to have an additional community member added, and that the Board of Selectmen member in number 2 is not the same individual as Board of Selectmen member in number 7. Is that correct?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the process. Could you, just for simplicity purpose, make a motion to accept this new policy with those amendment changes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the proposed recruitment process for the fire chief with the changes.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is review and approve a memorandum of understanding with the police union. And we have, gentlemen, there's about 10 pages of this. I assume you've all had a chance to go through it, unless there's any debate.
I have none.
I have none.
Okay, we'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the changes presented in the MOA between the town manager and the Upton Police Department.
Second the motion?
And I'll just amend that to say the dated April 10th, 2018. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, there are various donations that were submitted. Steve, I'll turn this over to you. I gave Steve my copy, so.
Okay. So there was one of our residents in town, William Quirk, had passed away, and he had made a suggestion to make donations to the Upton Police Department. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion that we accept these additional donations received by the Upton Police Department in memory of William Quirk, I'm sorry.
Second.
That's unanimous, and I knew Bill, so it's nice to see that the town shown appreciation for him and his contributions to town, specifically to his donations over the years to the men's club activities and others. So, to the family of Bill, our condolences. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there's still...
Oh, excuse me,
for the
yes.
fire department.
Yep, you get the second one on the second page.
Okay, and also that I'd like to make a second motion that we accept these gifts for the fire and EMS department. These donations, again, made in memory of William Quirk.
Second.
And that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, we're going to review trust fund investment. Treasurer collectors here. Ken, would you like to come up, please? And I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There are 3 members to the committee, Mike Oliver and his wife, Jeannie Oliver and myself. Every year we supply the catalog, the annual town meeting catalog with this list, and I had sent a letter to the selectmen making some suggestions, or at least pointing out that we have some uses for the 28 different trust funds, and my suggestion was, at least the suggestion not to specifically spend, but advise you that we had $88,558 that the selectmen could use for townspeople in distress, which sort of overlaps the welfare thing, and that's simply pointing that out. The second point was that we have a industrial accident trust fund for workman's compensation. This was done before workman's compensation. So if somebody gets injured in the town, we can burn that off, and it's one less item that I have to worry about investing, and simply pointed that out. In addition, let me give you a rough idea of what happened last year. This is for the last fiscal year that we closed. We ended up with $4,676,304. We gained about 9.1% on the investments. So that was a pretty good return. In addition, and this is something that I didn't include in my letter, I'd like to point out that we also have an item 16, and I know this is new to you, I'm just showing it to you for the first time, but on item 16, we have $191,000 that's available for care of the schools in Upton. And I have the, if I can pass these to you, this is the original will documents for the will. And I know you can't read it right now, but it's here for you to take a peek at.
I'll give you my copy.
And my suggestion is,
Oh, yeah.
oops, sorry, and
Is that yes?
so my suggestion is that you go before town council and ask them before, if this could be used, this money could be used to reduce the tax burden for, prior construction at the Memorial School. And maybe we can split this up over a number of years. But I think before we end up going before the school committee, that if we had some council that could say, yes, confirms that this money could be used to reduce taxes, then we can go before the school committee, because they're the ones that decide to spend this, and tell them that we have some assurances from our lawyers that this could be done. And that's really my point of coming before you tonight. If you have any other questions about any of the other trust funds, I'm here.
Gentlemen, do you have any
I
questions?
got a kind of question for Mr. Gowacki and the town manager. At a town meeting, we're creating an article, Article 23, like to do with,
Right.
are we able to use trust fund number 7 towards that article, the creation of Article 23?
It's something I was thinking about myself. It's something we certainly could, to look at as a startup for that new account. Yeah, absolutely.
So I have copies of all the original documents that are associated with each one of these downstairs under lock and file. And so if town council needs copies of them, I can get them to them directly.
No. Now, is the Knowlton Trust spelled out in a will
Oh, yes.
as much as the
Each
other?
one, yeah. We have a last will and testament, codicil, yeah.
So a quick question, you were talking about the school budget. So that particular, that was trust fund number 16, I believe you said?
Yes,
Okay. So what you're suggesting is we would actually use that money, basically zero out that account and take 1 year where we have our school budget, and then that would be that amount of money, basically, we would not have to raise and appropriate.
I'm not suggesting you do it for 1 year, and this is a matter of just my opinion. You could take a piece of it. To do it in 1 year then gives you a false impression that, taxes went down and then the next year it's not around. But if you spread this thing out, we know what we earn every year as well. And if it's $30,000, then you know that you could spend $30,000. Don't forget, these are gains that are put into that pile. So if we know that our gains are about $30,000, and I'm making that up off the top of my head right now, but let's say it is, you can do this $30,000 every year and have that taken off, supplement in lieu of taxes. But I can give you the details of that amount of money. I think the first step is to just get it through legal.
Legal, make sure
Yeah.
we can actually do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we could actually keep the account, just basically use the interest off the account, so that it wouldn't grow, we could just use that to...
Exactly, yeah, so, yeah.
Okay.
Spend a little- Derek?
I just want clarity. Who authorizes that use? The Board of Selectmen authorizes the release of those funds to the school committee?
No.
Or the school committee?
School committee. And now, school committee, many years ago, was given all of this. Everyone gets a copy of this. And for some reason, they just never used it, never considered it. And so what I'm suggesting before we approach them is, we say, you can use this for tax relief. And then ask them to take the next step,
If they choose.
if they choose. That's correct.
Interesting.
But it's specifically for tax relief. If you look at the details, and you'll see it later on, there's a letter in there that says to be used to give tax relief to the citizens of Upton.
Gentlemen?
Anything
Makes
that
sense.
can, I would say anything that can, help to lower our taxes, the amount we have to levy on the people, I'm all in favor of that.
No questions?
I do have one. Line item 10, the Ristine Scholarship. That's a separate fund from the traditional Ristine where we draw the money for scholarship awards, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are separate. And I don't see the William Knowlton Trust here either.
That's
William Knowlton.
14.
William Knowlton,
Yeah,
14.
there it is, sorry, missed it. Okay. Yep, just want to make sure.
Okay.
Got it. Gentlemen, there's nothing else. Thank you. Good seed planted.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. All right, there are consideration for funding requests, and Derek, I'll turn this over to you. There are 3.
Okay, just give me 1 second. So we have a couple of funding requests. The first one is from Janice, our COA director, As you can, we just went over the trust fund, the various trust funds. There is item number 24, the Goodridge. It's approximately $16,000. We were anticipating using those funds to upgrade some of the needs at the senior center. And so Janice had gone ahead and she has already purchased some equipment for the senior center, desperately needed equipment such as refrigerators. So we're requesting $1,658.95 to use towards the purchases of, towards the purchase of those 2 refrigerators.
Okay, gentlemen, as you know, the Board of Selectmen are in charge of the trust, so we could make motion to transfer from that trust fund.
Yep.
You in agreement?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr.
Gary?
Chairman, I make a motion to purchase 2 refrigerators for the COA from the Goodwich Trust for $1,658.95.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous. Okay, Derek?
So the second item is relative to the curtains in the main hall. I believe during the renovations, there was considerable conversation about replacing the old curtains with the with some new curtains. Not only would it help with aesthetics, but it certainly will help with some of the noise vibrations down in that room. So Kelly's gone out and has sought some price proposals. We have a price proposal for about $4,500 to replace the curtains in the main hall.
Gentlemen, Gary?
You want to do that from the Knowlton or the beautification?
Beautification would work, and there's plenty there.
Yeah.
Steve?
Beautification? Yep.
Please?
Mr.
Yep, it covers it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to purchase new stage curtains for $4,500 from the Racine Beautification Fund.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous action. Okay, you got one more, Derek? That's the RecCom?
As you know, this was a lot of conversation as we built the budget for this year. The Recreation Commission had gone out and sent an RFP for a master plan. It's approximately $35,000. CPC is willing to fund 50% of that $35,000. The Recreation Commission is able to fund 25% of that $35,000. And the request is in front of you by the Recreation Commission to the Board of Selectmen to support the remaining 25% through trust funds of $8,750.
Okay, gentlemen, there are a couple of options. I don't know if it would comply, but certainly beautification is consideration, but William Knowlton Trust Fund, which has $60-some-odd thousand in it, would be sufficient to cover this. So it's at your pleasure. I would recommend, I think the beautification might be a reach, so.
I think that's the only one we could take it from, looking at everything on the list is the Knowlton.
Yep.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking the same thing.
All right, Gary, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to contribute $8,750 towards the recreation study from the Knowlton Fund.
William Knowlton Fund, correct.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous action. Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask Kelly, would you please come up relative to your report on the auction? Hi.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
So, we finished the auction, or the auction items were out there for 2 weeks. I think it was just about 2 weeks. My memo that I wrote on Wednesday to you showed that I had some concerns because some of the big ticket items hadn't been picked up. The good news is they have. At least the one, the 2001 Ford dump truck was picked up for $6,400, and we're working with the buyer of the Chevy, the 2005 Chevy with the title. So we have pretty good confidence that those purchases will go through. The only other outstanding issue is the generator of $820, and that's more of a packing issue because it needs to go all the way down to Florida. And we don't want to take any responsibility, needless to say, to pack it. So the buyer needs to find someone that's willing to come and take care of it and put it on a truck and send it. So, so I did some quick calculations. If you look at that bottom number and just subtract out the generator, it's $12,337 that we received from the auction items. So, the items that did not go, a lot of them were the miscellaneous small stuff that we had here at the town hall. Just so you know, Travis, the mechanic at the DPW, was very familiar with this, and he's been a huge help. I know I notated it in my memo, but I just want to make that public. He's been really good with helping me on this. And we're thinking that we might want to bundle some of these items together. We might do another auction and bundle them together. People might be more inclined to, if they can get a whole mess of stuff at one time, bid on them. Also, Glenn from Cable just recently told me, because he's recently upgraded his equipment, he has some equipment also that he would like to sell. He's gonna get me some pictures and descriptions in the next couple of days. So at your next meeting, I'll have you, I'll submit a request to have you vote those as surplus so we can get them on the auction. And then the last is the Ford Escape. It was recommended that maybe we re-auction it again and put the minimum bid as $10,000, but the reserve price as $16,500. So unless someone bids $16,500, it won't sell. And we could try it again for 2 weeks and see what happens.
Gentlemen?
Does it cost us money to advertise this?
No, it's all on the website. Yeah.
They get a percentage.
Yeah, I'm sure they get, yeah.
But doesn't cost us any money up front to
No.
list
Yeah.
the cheap stuff?
No,
Okay.
So to relist the item actually won't cost us any additional money.
nope,
On this printout, it looks like we were paid for the generator, we're just waiting for them to actually pick it up.
right.
Okay.
And if they don't pick it up, they can get their money back. Like if they don't, so that's why I was a little bit concerned when I wrote it on Wednesday that the 2 big ticket items hadn't been picked up yet.
And is $16,500 a good price for that car?
What, I actually, if you don't mind, I had a quick conversation with Derek regarding this, and as most people probably know, I'm in the automotive business. This particular website is good, it's a good auction site, but sometimes you may want to try a different auction website. So I do have some recommendations. This one, you kind of have to seek out a particular vehicle, whereas in some other websites, it will just show up on the actual homepage. It'll always be there. There will be a picture of that vehicle, so it'll kind of catch people's eye. I think that's really a very good price, very favorable price. I just think it may be worthwhile to try a different website.
I'd be happy to take a look and see what we can do.
Yeah, and then, as you said, it's not a bad idea to start the auction a little bit lower. It'll get interest going, and then again, we can always set the reserve. So if we set the reserve at $16,500, it'll just encourage people to kind of get going. But I don't see any issue why that vehicle, won't sell. It just may take a little perseverance on your part. But certainly I can talk to you afterwards about, what other websites I might think may work for this.
Yep, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
But overall, I would say we've got to be...
It was successful, I think.
Yeah, we've got to be very happy with the results. It's kind of money that was just laying around, really.
And thank you.
Thank you.
I just tell you another topic? Yeah. A couple months ago, I think we were doing a study for the acoustics in Town Hall?
Yes.
Is that any?
Yes, so that was completed with the help, it was funded by the cable account, so I thank the cable, Glenn for doing it. It cost about $3,500. So they came in, expert came in and did all this testing in the main hall, and it's about $50,000 is what they estimate to put the panels on the different areas in the town hall in order to reduce the bouncing that you have. That's just for the panels and the installation. In order to install them, though, we need staging. Staging needs to be brought in, rented, set up, taken down, all that stuff. And that's probably an estimate from what I remember from the renovation of about $25,000. So it's a big project that we would have to really take under consideration and really put it out for bid. Those were just quotes that I was getting from people just to get an estimate on what it would be.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next before the board, we have a couple of appointments to consider. The first appointment is recommended by Council on Aging and the Director, Janice Nowicki. It's for a gentleman, Greg Manning, who I believe is my new neighbor. And his resume is very strong. I see he was a mayor in California for a number of years, so he certainly has town experience, city-town experience in government. So there is a motion before this to accept the application for Greg to consideration and appointment to the Council on Aging Board. Gary,
I have no questions.
please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to appoint Gregory Manning to Council on Aging Board.
Second the motion?
And make that unanimous. The next application we have is Donna Desjardins from Upton. She's applying for the Economic Development Committee, and for most of the citizens of Upton, they know Donna. She's been quite active in town government for a number of years. So I open that up to the board. Any questions?
No, sir.
No, I have none.
Accept the motion.
Make a motion to accept Donna Desjardins to the Economic Development Committee.
Second the motion?
It's unanimous. Okay, next on the agenda, I am going to recuse myself because I have an idea of what this is about. So I will recuse myself, and the next I'll defer to Gary Doherty, please. Gary?
You want to read this?
Yep.
This is a one-day liquor license. It's going to be at Town Hall on May 11th, a couple Fridays from now, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in a recognition. So.
I think we can probably figure out who the recognition is for. Someone who served on a board for, oh, I guess, around 30 years.
You ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Make a motion to accept a one-day liquor license, May 11th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Town Hall.
Second the motion?
That's majority action.
Majority.
Thank you, Gary. So I'm not mistaken, I think it's the first time the liquor license has ever been given for the Upton Town Hall. Somebody must have a reputation. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Okay, we have an application for a common vic license for Kelly's Farm. Are there any questions? This is traditional, as you know, they open every spring. Are there any questions relative to this?
You want me to say who it's for?
No, it's conditional with Board of Health, so we're just waiting for
Okay.
that.
Please.
Is that for Kelly's or the liquor license? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept approve Kelly's Farm Stands Valor license, vic license.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous action, and
Approval of the Board of Health.
spring is when they open, as we say. Okay, next, there are some various agreements. I'm going to defer at this point to Derek, town manager, and let him bring us through this process. Derek?
So, as you can see from the agenda, there's been a lot of work that's been taking place in the public works arena through the winter and then, early spring. So before you, there's a number of requests. All these contracts exceed $25,000, and as you know, in the Town Managers Act, the procurement officer cannot sign a contract if it's more than $25,000. So in front of you, I have a number of requests for your approval so that we can enter into contracts with various agencies to do various work. The first one I'll start off with is to enter into a contract with the Central Mass Regional Planning Committee. The town received a grant for $30,000 to develop a short-term and a long-term economic development plan. We expect to develop that plan in concert with the Economic Development Committee over the next 12 to 18 months. So my request is to seek your approval to enter into the contract with CMRPC for $30,000.
Okay, Gary?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the CRMPC Economic Development Plan for $30,000.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous. Thank you.
The next one, as I mentioned earlier, doing a lot of work with getting ready for the TIP project this spring. The next request is to enter in a contract with real estate appraisal services. There's not a cost here.
$5,925.
For Donald Walensky, yeah, $105,925 for appraisal services. Once we enter into this contract, we'll be working very closely with the appraisal company to identify the temporary and the permanent easements along the TIP project, along that route, that corridor.
And the only thing I'd say, it sounds like a lot of money, but when the state is giving you close to 13 million, it's actually a small price point. So, Gary, are you prepared to make a motion on
Yes, sir.
this? Please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the tip appraisal service for Donald Wellenesk for $105,925.
Second the motion?
It's unanimous action of the board.
The next request is for $888,637. This is going to RFS Corporation. They were the successful bidder for the water main replacement project that will take place this summer. As many of you know, the initial projection for this project was $1.3 million, so we're very satisfied with this bid at $888,000. So the request is to approve $888,637 to enter into contract with RFS Corporation.
All set?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept or enter into contract for the RFS Corporation for the Hartford Ave North Water Main Project for $888,637.
Second the motion?
That's unanimous action.
In addition to that request, staying on the water main replacement project at Hartford Ave North, we are requesting to enter into a contract with Beta Engineering for $105,982. Beta Engineering, they will support the town, they'll help us inspect the water main, make sure it meets all the specifications as required in the bid.
Accept the motion?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to enter into contract with Beta Engineering for the water main replacement services for $105,925.
982, I think it
Oh,
is.
sorry, 982.
Second the motion?
Unanimous action.
Lastly, as you all can recall, last November, we had a problem with one of our wells. We've had to shut that well down. Which well was that, Dennis? That was the Glen Ave well. So that well has been shut down by DEP since then. Dennis Westgate has been working with DEP and CDM Engineering to get this well back online. So the contract with CDM Engineering is for $31,900. Once we enter the contract, we hope to have this well back online in time for the hot summer months.
This is just the engineering or the replacement or
This is the engineering and all the permitting.
Do we have an estimate on what that actual project was? It 50,000 for the actual construction part of it?
Construction is less than that. I think it's like 10 or 12.
The actual cost of the system?
So we're doing all of the work in-house, so it's going to be the cost of actually the water main itself. We're taking an 8-inch water main, 300 feet long, replacing it with a 12-inch. And we're going to take the chemical feed pumps that we already have at the Glen Ave pump station. We're going to upgrade them and send a line of chlorine feed all the way down along that line, so we have contact right at the wellhead itself. The contact time in that 12-inch main from the wellhead through that 300 feet meets our 4-log requirement, disinfects before it gets to the treatment facility itself. So that because the work's being done in-house and the cost of the pipe, we're looking at probably about another $10,000 or $12,000 in expenses that we're absorbing in-house through our operating budget.
Excellent.
That's our motion, sir? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to enter into a contract with CDM Engineering for a 4-log well project for $31,900.
Second the motion?
Unanimous action of the board. All set there? That's it. Okay, thank you. Next, we have the annual scholarship review. Each selectman does their own process. We obviously have not discussed this, but what I'd like to do is recommend that I go down through, and if the board is in agreement, I will rank who I have by my top selections, and then the board jumps in, and if we're all in agreement, they're in, say, the top 5, they are awarded the scholarship. We will stay strictly to the numbers. We will not mention names as I disclosed, because the school committee wants to do the announcements on Class Day, and that's only proper. So, and it saves a little embarrassment sometimes if you start throwing names of high school students out. So, the first candidate I would say that I have on my end is number 3. I would ask if the board is in agreement if that candidate is ranked high.
I have, yes.
I have, yes.
So can we consider that candidate and a recipient of the Racine Scholarship? We have I want to make sure I got it right, but we have Christine Scholarship awards for 6 members. We have one from the Ernest Quint Ramsey Scholarship, which I had the privilege of establishing, and we have another $200 scholarship for the Gary Bates Fund. So we are in essence awarding 8. There are 6 that will be awarded in the amount of $500 and 2 in the amount of $200. So if we are in agreement, number 3 is a $500 recipient, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second on my ranking is number 8. And I ask, is the board in agreement on that one?
I am.
We are?
Yep.
Oh, this is working out well. So number 8 is a $500 recipient. And if you're wondering, I did mine, I weighted the averages based upon factors of grade point average, rank, financial need, the letter that was submitted, which I take extremely, see as important, activities and the work outside of high school to contribute to their scholars, to their college funding. So, okay, next I would go, I have number 6 as a candidate.
I have number 6.
I do not.
Okay, we'll hold on number 6, all right? I have number 12.
I do have number 12.
Yes.
Okay, so number 12 is a $500 recipient. Okay, I have number 7. Wait a minute, I want to be sure, I'm sorry, I don't. I have number, going through them, I have number 2 as a candidate.
I do as well.
Okay, so number 2 is a $500 recipient. Usually they do come out fairly consistent. I have number 11 as a $500 recipient.
I had him as a 200.
I have, yes, I have him as a 500.
500. Will you defer to
Yep.
500? Okay. Number 11 is a 500. Okay, I'm running out, let's see. Going through them by where they were. Okay, I have number 1 as a $200 scholarship.
I do not.
I didn't, no.
Neither one of you had the listed?
No.
For no scholarship, okay. Number 10, I have listed.
I didn't, no.
No?
I do not.
Do not, okay. Okay, we have need for one more 5. I have number 4.
I do not.
Number 4. I had number 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have number 4,
I
I'm
number-
sorry, as a 250. I'm sorry.
200?
200.
I had number 4 as a Ramsey.
Okay, so the 200. Can we stipulate,
Or Bates or whatever.
yeah, will, Gary Bates. Gary Bates is number 4. Okay, at this point, can I just go down and ask where you rank? Number 5? Do you have number 5 ranked?
I do.
Yes, I did.
And for 500 or 200?
500.
I think I had a 200.
Will you defer to 200 on that? Oh, no, we already have a 200, excuse me, the Ramsey is taken, so it's either 500 or not. That's my next highest in rank.
500?
You have 9 on yours at all?
9 I do, but it's lower. Okay, I have to be careful how I say this. 6 and 7 I had consideration for, and I think you'll know why. We only have one 500 left to go, gentlemen. So, can I say number 13 is not a consideration? Is that what you say?
Yes.
Okay. And can I say that number 9 is not a consideration?
I had number 9.
Did you have number 9?
A lot of scratches here.
Oh, yeah.
I think 9 is a scratch.
Okay, how about number 14, gentlemen?
I had number 14 tied with my number 5, so.
I'm sorry. Number 9's back in for me. Sorry about that.
Okay, you had number 9?
I had number 9.
I will defer to 9 then, for 500.
What about 5? We haven't awarded the number yet on number 5, so we're down to numbers 5
Well,
and 9.
right now, I have, and I'll repeat, number 1 for 200, number 2 for 500, number 3 for 500, number 4 for 200, number 8 for 500, number 11 for 500, number 12 for 500. That gives us the two 200s, Gary Bates and Ernest Ramsey, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Ristine, so we have one more Ristine at 500 to give. Gentlemen, I will, at this point, I'm kind of tied for all of them at this ranking, so I will defer to you two. You both seem to have number 5.
Number 5 is a 500?
I had 5 too.
So number 5 is a 500, and that will conclude the scholarships. So I will repeat just for clarity, make sure we're all correct. Number 1 is a 200, Ernest Swint Ramsey. Number 2 is a 500. Number 3 is a 500. Number 4 is 200, Gary Bates. Number 5 is 500. Number 8 is 500. Number 11 is 500, and number 12 is 500. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And Sandy, I'm going to give you all my documentation so she can study how I do my weighted averages, the old teacher in me. So,
Do I have the Excel sheet, please?
yeah, pretty much. Okay, next we have to execute the election warrant. The annual election is being held for the following officers: moderator for 1 year, selectman for 3 years, collector treasurer for 3 years, assessor of taxes for 3 years, Mendon Upton Regional School District Committee member for 3 years, cemetery commission for 3 years, cemetery commission for 2 years, Board of Health for 3 years, Recreation Commission for 3 years, trustees of Public Library for 3 years, trustees of Public Library for 1 year, Planning Board for 5 years, Board of Commissioner of Trust Funds for 3 years. And this is for the annual town election, which is going to be held on, I believe it's May 15th, at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are 2 precincts. I don't want to take your thunder, but when residents come in, they vote by street location, and there will be 2 precincts to vote. So, gentlemen, we need to motion to accept the annual election warrant for 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to execute the annual election warrant for May 15th, 2018.
Second the motion.
And that's unanimous action of the board. Any new business, gentlemen? Do we have any questions in the audience? Okay, as you know, I'm not going to make a long speech. I'm just going to say it was a great ride. I did the math, and I think this is my 4,200th meeting, so there have been a few. And over the years, it's been 28 years as selectman and 4.5 on the finance committee. So I often say my kids are grown up. I have grandchildren, and they were all in high school and grammar school when I started this. So it has been a great ride, and I think the greatest takeaway is the appreciation I have for the people that volunteer for this town. There are a lot of people that come forward and have criticism, but when you look at the annual town meeting and you don't see them there, you say they don't really have grounds to criticize. And there are some people that commit themselves to 4 or 5 different activities in this town, and they're the ones that we should really appreciate their time and commitment, because without them, the town wouldn't function as well as it does. So, but it's been a great ride, and thank you, everybody. That's it. So the board will go in executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Exception Number 2, to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel. We will reconvene only for the purposes of adjournment. Do we have a motion to go in executive session?
Make a motion to go into executive session. Gary Darty, aye.
Stephen Mattelli and I.
Robert Fleming, aye. We are in executive session. Thank you.